Heads up everybody, my name is SentinelGray and welcome to the channel. I'm going to be going over and reading through Destiny's update 3.4.0 that came live on December 7th, 2021. This is a long one. This is one that addresses a whole bunch of Crucible changes, grenade changes, all that good stuff. So this is pretty big. I might actually record this in two parts. I have no idea. But sit back, relax, whether you're on a drive home from work or whether you're at work or whatever. If you want to know what these patch notes say and what's all in it, there you go. And if you want to read yourself, obviously the video is going to be here, so, you know. For activities, for Crucible, currency rewards lock out at 3, 5, and 7 wins, no longer clear on ticket resets. I'm assuming this applies to trials. Added a playlist tooltip to indicate that crossplay must be enabled to access trials. Trials passages now display a warning message if the player account owns a 7-win ticket. Added third-person camera restricted tooltip and load screen hint to trials, elimination, and showdown, so you know you can't go into third person. Fixed an issue that prevented the Dead Cliffs map from loading correctly in glory playlists. Removed anomaly and the Dead Cliffs from momentum control rotation. For me, this is nice. This is a good change. Fixed missing string for Legendary Valor Triumph and corrected number of times that it requires reaching the Crucible rank of Legend. Crucible bounties for zone capture now apply to all Crucible modes. Actually, that's really nice. Rusted Lands fixed an issue where dynamic objects like barrels or bricks with physics and the hive exploding objects were missing from the map. Oh. Did I notice that? I don't know. Fixed the map exploit on top of the tree near Mill in the Dead Cliffs. Okay. Trials activity node now displays potential rewards when playing on a 7-win ticket. Nice. That's actually really nice. 7-win passages require a manual reset before players can purchase a new passage. Fixed an issue where Crucible rank displayed an incorrect value in the Crucible intro cinematic after reset. Combat efficiency in the post round now displays overall match efficiency. Respawn timer for Clash, Control, Rumble, and Iron Banner increased to 7 seconds from 5 seconds. I've actually had a bunch of PvP friends comment on this that it feels weird. Maybe just because it's different, but I don't know. Lost sectors, improvements. Adjusted the music in Legend and Master Lost sectors to scale as lives and time begin to run down. The Darkness Zone tendrils and sound will now play when players run out of revives in Legend and Grandmaster Lost sectors and in Grandmaster Nightfalls. Players will now see a no revives remaining warning when out of revives in Legend or Master Lost sectors or in Grandmasters. Players will no longer see revives +0 when defeating champions after the time limit passes in Legend, Master Lost sectors, or Grandmaster Nightfalls. Fixes. Fixed an issue where the post-game completion screen for Legend and Master Lost sectors didn't show any stats. Okay. The empty tank Lost sector on the Tangled Shore now rewards the correct exotics gear, in line with the other Lost sector reward rotation. Excavation Site 12 fixed an issue where the barrier at the entrance in Legend or Master difficulty had a gap that allowed players to go outside of the Lost sector. This Lost sector will enter active rotation again in the future season. Added an energy barrier to the Scavenger's Den Lost sector on EDZ when playing on Legend or Master difficulty to prevent skipping most of the encounters in the Lost sector. This Lost sector will enter active rotation again in the near future. For strikes, the Corrupted. Holy hell. Okay. To reduce the overall length of the strike and make it less painful after hard wipes in the elevator encounter, we have removed the taken combatants in the dark ascendant plane hallway leading up to the elevator. Oh, okay. That's fine. So all the Minotaurs and Phalanxes, all the taken Minotaurs and taken Phalanxes are gone. I'm assuming that's what that means. If a fire team hard wipes during the final phase of the boss fight in the Ascendant Realm, when they respawn, the portal to the Ascendant Realm will take them straight to Phase 2 instead of making them replay the platforming section between Phase 1 and Phase 2. Oh, okay, that's good. When a fire team arrives at the platforming area before the boss fight in the Aditum, I think that's how you say that, any fire team members or ghosts left behind in earlier parts of the strike will now be teleported forward to join their fire team. Thank God. When players begin the elevator encounter, any straggling players or their ghosts will be pulled forward to join their fire team. Good. Fixed an issue where Sadia's shields would regenerate faster than expected on Nightfall difficulties. Her shields now regenerate based on health threshold and Nightfalls, just like they do in Direct Launch or the Vanguard playlist. The portal to the Ascended Realm after Phase 1 of the boss fight should now reliably place players facing the correct direction. Yep, that was the thing. Fixed an issue that was preventing the combatants from walking to part of the right side area during the first half of the boss fight. Science should now spread out a little more on that right platform. Oh, got it. Fixed an issue where a taken acolyte would spawn within the floating platform area before the boss fight and immediately fall to its death before ever really getting to live. Fixed an issue where, in certain conditions, the relic would despawn and never respawn during the boss phase. Fixed a cosmetic issue where the relic spawners during the boss phase would spin before the relic was spawned. For the inverted spire, fixed an issue where a player's ghost would appear too far back in the strike upon death near the drill area. The ghosts now appear at a safe location in the drill area. Okay. Scarlet Keep. Fixed an issue where the crystal to continue the strike would be permanently invincible if players got to the wizard at the first top of the elevator and killed it before the crystal could spawn. Okay. Strikes. Fix an issue where the catch-up version of Grandmaster Hollowed Lair had different modifiers than the weekly featured version. Oh, okay. Lake of Shadows. To bring this boss encounter more in line with other strikes and our modern sandbox gameplay, Grask's health has been increased significantly. This is gonna suck. I don't know if we could still burn him down with swords. We'll figure it out. Hopefully it still won't be too hard, but we'll see. Grandmaster Nightfalls. A new catch-up node will be available to all players who have claimed the base Conqueror seal from week 7 onwards. Grandmaster catch-up activities will only be accessible if the fire team leader has not yet completed the associated Gilded Triumph. Free roam. Fixed an issue where a wall of taken miasma could appear in a doorway in Rayselvia during free roam, when it shouldn't be there. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Rayselvia is in the Dreaming City. Raids. Fixed an issue in the Last Wish raid that, for some fire teams, caused the final encounter to not start properly, causing unavoidable failure. Queen's Walk Escape. When players picked up the Riven's Heart, there was an issue where the encounter wouldn't start, resulting in no enemy spawning and immediate teleportation into the inside of the heart. Oh, got it. UI. Some UI changes. Text chat. Players on Xbox, PlayStation, and Stadia platforms can now opt into seeing text chat messages within various chat channels. Updated terminology for text chat settings on these platforms to reflect functionality availability. Extended whisper chat settings to all platforms. Added increased granularity to filter who may send you whisper chat messages. Added the option to remap the show/hide text chat button on PC. This is mapped to the L key by default, but the option to remap it was not exposed. Settings, text chat, keybinds, UI, CUI option was removed for binding a keyboard button to show hide text chat. Fixed an issue that was preventing use of Korean IME input on Windows. Don't know what that means. Sorry. Stasis vendor. Fixed an issue where stasis aspect quests were not consistently shown on the stasis vendor until after the player had acquired their second stasis aspect. Additional text has been added to locked quests describing how to unlock each respectively. Okay, good. Stasis subclass screen. Fixed various issues where the pips for aspects and fragments would sometimes show an inaccurate counter. The pips counter displays based on the page of the The pips counter displays based on the page of the socket trays last inspected. Okay. The pips under the socket slots display counts the pips under the socket slots display counts the empty socket. In the stasis subclass screen, the number of pips for aspects and fragments is one less than the total. Okay. Boot flow. I have no idea. For starting of the game. Cross save information screen. Updated the visuals for the cross save screen to align with the style of the crossplay screen introduced with the launch of crossplay in season 15. Okay. Windows Store settings screen updated the settings screen to allow new players on the Windows Store to see text chat preferences to match those available to new players on Steam. Roster. God, there's so much, and I'm not even a quarter of the way through. Fixed an issue on PC platforms so players could experience FPS drops in various situations where the roster was updating more often than intended. It still happens. The largest FPS drops were seen in the roster tower and while in orbit. It still happens, by the way. Can confirm. Fixed an issue where max length Bungie names could wrap onto a second line and obscure other UI elements in the roster tooltips. Reduce the width and the friction area of the social preferences tab when using a controller. Fixed an issue where roster contacts could appear as blank entries while waiting for all relevant data to load before showing any content. Updated the icon for social preferences set to public to distinguish the setting from the joinable fireteam icon to avoid confusion. Fixed an issue where a player could appear offline but also showed as joinable in some cases. Fixed an issue where players may not receive an error notification if they accept a fireteam invite but fail to join successfully. Sending a fireteam invite, then settings social preferences to closed will result in no error message pop up when a player accepts a fireteam invite. Gotcha. Fixed an issue where the invite to fireteam button was hidden if the local fireteam privacy was not set to closed. Fixed an issue where pending invites from offline players could show a circle icon when the platform is unknown. Fixed an issue where blocked players did not consistently appear with a blocked icon on the roster screens. Fixed an issue on Steam where some platform icons could default to a generic platform icon, most notably with Steam not showing a PlayStation player's icon. Oh god, yeah, it just showed a controller. Updated text on Windows Store for various tooltips where terminology was overly generic. Okay. Ritual reputations. You can now reset a reputation with unclaimed materials if there are no unique items in the current resets item list. The number of seasonal resets is now listed on the reputation rewards section of the vendor, and fix an issue where rank reset dialogues could appear during activities. Thank God. So the reset reputation thing, I'm assuming that means you don't have to collect all of the ascendant shards, enhancement prisms, those types of things. Bounties. Fix an issue with kinetic calibration bounties not being available on the gunsmith. Didn't notice. Gameplay. Okay, so now we get in the meat of things. Sorry, it took us I don't know how long to get here. Armor. Frosties. In PvP game modes, ability energy gain is no longer generative with other energy regeneration boosts. Heart of Inmost Light. Using abilities more consistently now stacks the empowerment buff. Buff text now displays which ability is empowered and how many stacks of empowerment it has. In PvP game modes, reduce buff duration and ability regen rate by 50%. So I use the Heart of Inmost Light all the time. And yes, now instead of just saying empowered like it used to, it tells you exactly what's empowered, whether it's your grenade, melee, or your barricade ability. The problem that I have with that is because of that, because you can theoretically have 3 buffs on your screen with those 3 being the thing, and then let's just say you have Rampage procced on an auto rifle or whatever. Destiny only shows 4 buffs or debuffs at a time, maybe 5. I think it's only 4 though. We need, there needs to be a better description or a better thing that shows our buffs and debuffs, because I know going through certain things, I'm sorry I'm stopping right here, but I know I'm going through certain things and I have 5 or 6 different buffs or debuffs on me at a time, but I can only see 4 of them. You know what I mean? So I think that needs to be addressed down the road, and I hope it is. Anyway, sorry. Continuing. Controverse hold. Ability regeneration boost now always lasts 1.75 seconds. Previously, the boost would range between 1 second and 4 seconds. Previous average duration was 1.35 seconds due to waiting. In PvP game modes, reduce grenade energy gain by 50%. So yeah. In case you didn't know, this is the update that makes the game in PvP, like makes the PvP game, like in Crucible, a lot more gun heavy and a lot less ability friendly. So, Doomfang Pauldrons in PvP game modes reduced super energy gain by 50%. Shinobu's Vow in PvP game modes reduced grenade energy gain per hit by 66%. Chromatic Fire now works with stasis subclasses as intended. Crown of Tempests in PvP game modes reduces energy or reduced energy generation boost duration from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. Now this is in PvP, remember. The Stag in PvP game modes reduced class ability energy gain by 50%. Icefall Mantle, stasis overshield can now be cancelled by pressing the ability input button again. Dune Marchers. Once a player is hit by a Dune Marcher's Chain Lightning, they cannot be hit again by Dune Marchers for 2 seconds. Dune Marcher's Lightning now only chains on targets that are alive. So no more targeting and chaining to random shit, which is nice. Armor mods can now be applied instantaneously with a button press. Removed all glimmer costs from socketing armor mods. Melee Kickstart. In PvP game modes, reduced melee energy gain by 50%. Same thing with Grenade Kickstart, reduced grenade energy gain by 50% for PvP. Utility Kickstart, in PvP game modes, reduced class ability energy gain by 50%. Bolstering Detonation, in PvP game modes, reduced class ability energy gain by 50%. Focusing Strike does the same thing. For Perpetuation, in PvP game modes, reduced class ability energy you gain by 25%. Change varies slightly based on how many copies of the mod you have equipped. Bomber in PvP game modes, reduce grenade energy by 45%. Outreach does the same thing for melee. Dynamo does the same thing for super. And for distribution in PvP game modes, reduced energy gain by 45%. Momentum transfer and impact induction reduce respectively melee and grenade energy in PvP by 50%. So this is basically hitting all of that stuff with the biggest stick in the world in PvP. You can't get energy back as reliably or as much in PvP anymore. Like I said, they're switching to trying to make it a gun meta like it seems a lot of the PvP community wants. Weapons. Archetypes. Shotgun. Reduce slug shotgun PvE damage bonus from 30 to 20%. Gave pellet shotguns a 10% PvE damage bonus. We're going to have to play with this a little bit to see how it is. Linear fusion rifles increased PvE damage by 10%. Caster swords reduced heavy ammo attack cost from 8 to 5. They actually might now be pretty viable. Bows increased damage versus miners by 10%. Sidearms increased sidearm projectile speed from 999 to 9999, which makes them hit scan regardless of frame rate. So before, one of the things before, sidearms were apparently not hit scan. They would have, I wasn't aware of this, but like they brought it up. They had like travel velocity, like how you would play like Warzone or something, how you have to lead shots. Sidearms apparently had that to some small degree. Now they're basically hit scan. Exotics. Vex Mythoclast. Reduced aim assist stat by 25. Reduced the linear fusion rifle mode aim assist cone scalar from 1.1 to 1.05. Now requires 3 player kills for full overcharge instead of 2. It didn't get hit in the PvE category, which is great, I think. Fighting Lion. Remove the multi-hit requirement, i.e. dealing any damage will grant the buff. Increase the buff to reload. Increase the buff to the reload stat from plus 50 to plus 70. Reload will still be slow if you miss, but if you land any damage, Fighting Line will reload faster than it did before the nerf. Increase the buff duration to 7 seconds. Arbalist now has anti-barrier rounds intrinsically on the gun. Sleeper Simulant increased magazine size from 3 to 4 and increased PvE damage by 6%. This, in addition to the 10% increase to all linear fusion rifles, apparently has made Sleeper pretty viable. Suros Regime. Dual speed receiver now grants the following in addition to its current effects: plus 30 range and plus 3 zoom. Cryosthesia. Removed variable trigger completely. Now fires on trigger press instead of release. This will make it feel much more responsive. So you, like before, Cryosthesia you had to release the trigger in order for it to fire. Now it's just whenever you press down. Charge shot moved to special reload. Getting a kill with the sidearm enables access to the special reload. Once the charge shot is fired, the weapon reverts to standard sidearm fire. This does not cost your entire magazine, which is really nice. Charge shot now deals an AoE, which freezes AI and slows players. Direct hits still freeze. Leviathan's Breath. The catalyst now grants the Archer's Tempo perk in addition to its other effects. For those of you who like to meme with Leviathan's Breath like I do, this is going to be fun. Whisper of the Worm, the thing a lot of people are excited for. Reduce delay on activating whispered breathing from the catalyst from 2.1 seconds to 1.2 seconds. White Nail magazine refill changed. Was 3 from your inventory, now pulls 2 from your inventory with 1 from thin air. And increased PvE damage by 10%. Darcy. Apparently after these changes, Darcy is still in a bad spot, but reduced flinch, recoil, and bloom by 50% while Personal Assistant is active. Personal Assistant now has a 1-second delay before deactivating when off target. It used to be instant. And increased damage in PvE by 20%. Apparently, even still with all this, Darcy cannot compete. Actually, funny enough, Malfeasance increased explosion damage by 50%. Apparently, I saw somebody do a test and I saw apparently that Malfeasance does more damage on, I think, Taniks than Darcy does, which is very funny. Dead Man's Tale. Improved consistency and hip fire with the catalyst, increased reticle friction, fall off distance, less recoil, improved accuracy. Basically, for controller players, it helps you guys out a lot. Might help us mouse and keyboard players out a lot. I don't know. Heir Apparent catalyst, reduced damage resistance against players from 75% to 25%. Yeah, you were basically a god if you rolled around with Heir Apparent. Lawrence Driver, telemetry patterns no longer reward ability energy. All right. Perks. Adrenaline Junkie. This is a big one and one that I am very much for. Kills add single damage stack or extend existing ones. Grenade kills boost the stacks immediately to ×5. Lower the duration to compensate for weapon activation. So Adrenaline Junkie is literally just Swashbuckler now, except with grenades. You get a grenade kill, you get an immediate 5x stack of Adrenaline Junkie. It does, I think people are gonna have to do tests, but I think it does 33% damage at a 5 stack. If they did this exact same thing that they did with Swashbuckler, it's going to go up incrementally, so you can take the numbers from Swashbuckler and probably add them to Adrenaline Junkie and it then be the same thing. Don't know yet though, but Adrenaline Junkie is good now, just in case you didn't know. Vorpal Weapon, now 10% on heavy weapons, now 15% on special and 20% on primary, where it used to be 15% across the board. No change to damage versus players in their supers. So it used to be 15% on bosses and vehicles across the board. Now it's 10 on heavy, 15 on special, 20 on primary. Whirlwind Bleed. Increased number of stacks needed to hit maximum damage from 5 to 10, which means you need to hit 5 times in order to get the biggest damage buff possible for Whirlwind Blade. It's not terrible. I've still used it, but I think depending on what you're using it for, Vorpal Weapon might be the better play to go. I don't know though. We'll see. Pulse Monitor. Change health threshold from 90% health and any shield to any health and 30% shield, which is actually really nice. Pulse Monitor I might actually use now. Mods. Quick access sling. Functionality changed. Was plus 100 handling and 0.9 ready stow aim down sights time for 0.4 seconds after running out of ammo. Now is 0.9 ready stow time all the time. This change also applies to the swap mag perk, as they use the same perk behind the scenes. I'm assuming that means we don't get the handling back. I don't know. We're gonna have to play with it and figure it out. There is a new mod here. Full auto retrofit weapon mod. Added a full auto retrofit weapon mod that enables full auto while the trigger is held. Usable on legendary hand cannons, sidearms, scout rifles, and pulse rifles. This is unlocked by default for all players. This right here, this full auto retrofit mod, is purely an accessibility mod, because there are some people who have like, what's the best way to put it? Like whether it be carpal tunnel or something like that, to where multiple button presses is hard for them. This is just to make their life easier, for those of you that don't know. Fixes. Restored missing flavor text to reissued dungeon weapons. Fixed an issue where Telesto's bolts would sometimes persist after detonating, allowing them to detonate again. This is the last we will hear. We will be hearing about Telesto for sure. Yeah, not to give it another week. Fixed an issue where the Hothead rocket launcher had no UI tell for a target lock when it has the tracking module perk. Fixed an issue where the dreaded venture and bite of the fixed an issue where the dreaded venture and bite of the fox sniper rifles muzzle flashes were obscuring more of the screen than intended. Oh, okay, got it. Fixed an issue where Augur Scepter empowered mode wouldn't deactivate when tethered. Ooh, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Fixed an issue where after using their super, a player could keep using Augur Scepter's special reload indefinitely. Ooh. Fixed an issue where Uzume RR4 sniper rifle scope would flash white when firing. Fixed an issue where Vulpecula, or Vulpecula, however you say that, would show incorrect up-down arrows when comparing magazine perks. Adjusted the scope settings for Darcy's Mind of Its Own ornament so that its flinch and recoil behavior match that of Darcy and its other ornaments. For abilities, this is the big one. And actually, I took a look at this already. There's going to be a chart that happens here. And I'm going to go, it's better to look at the chart, but I'm going to go over all of them, so don't worry. Variable ability cooldowns. The cooldown time for grenade, melee, class, and super abilities now varies based on the power output of the ability. Note, previously all abilities in the categories generally shared the same cooldown. Also note, all ability cooldown times listed in these patch notes use the base cooldown time, which is the cooldown time at tier 3 of the relevant armor stat, whether it be inner strength, discipline, whatever. The cooldown times for these abilities are now listed on the subclass screen under the ability description. From what I understand, the tier 3 thing, you can't go below tier 3 on any of the abilities now. Like, tier 3 is the base. Even if you only have 10 strength for melee, it's still going to be the same thing as if it were 30 strength. If I read this, or if I'm understanding this correctly. If not, please let me know down in the comments. Supers. Reworked how super energy is generated. Super energy is now primarily generated by dealing and taking damage. Super energy regen amount varies based on target type and damage source. Reduce super gain on kills, assists, and objective captures. Reduce passive super energy regeneration speed. Super regen speed now varies per super. So we are going to start with the fastest regen and end at the slowest regen. Okay, I'm going to go through these. Tier 5 is Well of Radiance. Tier 4 is Blade Barrage, and then Silence and Squall. Tier 3 is Shadow Shot, Burning Maul, Arc Staff, Nova Bomb, and then Thunder Crash. Tier 2 is Golden Gun, Chaos Reach, Nova Warp, Storm Trance, Daybreak, and Sentinel Shield. And then Tier 1, which is the slowest regen, is Spectral Blades, Fist of Havoc, Hammer of Soul, Glacial Quake, and Winter's Wrath. Stasis. Stasis Crystals. While forming, stasis crystals now slow nearby players instead of freezing them. They still freeze PvE combatants while forming, so don't worry. Increased slow/freeze radius while forming from 1.75 meters to 2.6 meters. Reduced crystal formation damage from 20 to 10. Sorry, I've done a lot of talking right now. Reduced crystal detonation damage versus players by 55%. Increased crystal detonation damage versus PvE combatants by 60%. Increased crystal detonation radius from 6 meters to 8 meters. So these are going to be even more viable. The Immortal Warlock build that I have on the channel, it's going to be even more powerful now with these changes. Whisper of Shards. Reduced grenade generation in PvP game modes by 50%. Whisper of Chains. Increased damage reduction versus PvE combatants from 25% to 40%. What did I just say? He's going to be even more immortal now. Whisper of Fissures. Reduced max damage versus players from 29 to 8. Reduced detonation radius in PvP game modes from 9 meters to 8 meters. Whisper of Rending. Increased kinetic weapon damage versus stasis crystals by 100%. Frozen status effect. Fixed an issue where frozen players could still interact with objects and revive players. Didn't know that. All right, Titans. We got your main stuff going on. Shoulder charge abilities. Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, and Shield Bash. Sprint activation time reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds. Increased targeting range from 5.5 meters to 6.8 meters. Lunge range increased from 5.5 meters to 6.8 meters. Targeting cone width increased by 10%. Now suppresses victim's melee lunge for 1 second on hit. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 25%. Reduced damage versus players. No longer guarantees a one-shot kill. They don't give an exact number on how much it is reduced to players. But basically the thing is, shoulder charges will now no longer one-shot kill an enemy at full health while you're in the Crucible. However, they did say that if somebody is weak or whatever, I'm assuming if they have like half shields or something like that, or if they're pretty low, they'll get one shot. But they tried to stress as much as they could that shoulder charge is no longer a one-hit kill at full health anymore. Towering Barricade, the big boy. Increased cooldown from 37 seconds to 40 seconds. Not that terrible. Rallying Barricade. Reduced cooldown from 37 seconds to 32 seconds. Okay, I probably still won't use Rally Barricade. Top Tree Sunbreaker. Hammer Strike Melee. Reduced direct impact damage from 170 to 120. Increased cooldown duration from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. I'm assuming this is across the board, but I'm not 100% sure. That direct impact damage, maybe only to PvP. You're going to have to check. Middle Tree Sunbreaker, Burning Maul Super. Heavy Slam can now be aimed until hammer impacts the ground. Previously, the M direction was locked as soon as the slam animation started. Oh, okay, good. Hammer Throw Melee. Increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. Increased knockback versus some heavier combatants. All right. Roaring Flames. Reduce the bonus to ability damage when Roaring Flames and Worm God's Caress exotic perk are active. Okay, so having both those active at the same time aren't going to do as much. Top Tree Striker. Aftershocks. Scaled energy gains by tier of the hit target. So you get energy back based on what type of target it is that you hit. Now grants 10% grenade energy for the primary player target and 5% additional grenade energy for secondary player targets in the AoE detonation. No, previously granted was 20% grenade energy for each target hit. Okay. So it's not that. Like it's nerfed. Seismic Strike Melee reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40. Now blinds enemies in the area on hit. Increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. Middle Tree Striker Thunder Crash Super slightly increased how much you're forced downward during flight. So you gotta really pull up now. Inertia Override reduced melee energy gain in PvP from 20% to 10%. Ballistic Slam Melee increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds, and fixed an issue where destroying projectiles would generate super energy. Bottom Tree Striker Knockout melee lunge range and melee damage bonus now deactivate after a melee kill. Trample super energy gain from Fist of Havoc light attacks decays to minimum increase over 3 PvP kills, down from 7. Okay. Frontal Assault Melee increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 106 seconds. Fist of Havoc Heavy Slam radius reduced from 8 meters to 6 meters. We're going on. This is a half hour long. This is nuts. Top Tree Sentinel Defensive Strike Melee increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. Word of Dawn Super now takes 50% less damage from Storm Trance's landfall. I don't really agree with that, but okay. Reduce the amount of super energy provided by Word of Dawn Orbs of Power. That kind of sucks. Middle Tree Sentinel Tactical Assault Melee increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. Okay, cool. Bottom Tree Sentinel Shield Bass Melee increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds and reduced the AoE damage from 90 to 40. Behemoth Diamond Lance increased fragment slot allowance from 1 to 3, which is insane, by the way. Now spawns a Diamond Lance upon killing a PvE combatant with stasis weapons. Killing 3 players with stasis weapons without dying, and killing an enemy with a stasis ability or shattering an enemy. So now spawns a Diamond Lance on any of those. Shiver Strike. Increase Shiver Strike damage while in Glacial Quake by 50%. Shiver Strike needs to go. Shiver Strike needs to be a shoulder charge, not what it is. Howl of the Storm. Extended freeze cone length to compensate for crystals no longer freezing on creation. Hunters. Holy hell. Marksman's Dodge. Refactored cooldown benefit per tier of mobility stat. Tier 10 mobility cooldown increased from 11 seconds to 14 seconds. Base cooldown unchanged at 29 seconds. No longer breaks projectile tracking. Gambler's Dodge. Refactored cooldown benefit per tier of mobility stat. Tier 10 mobility cooldown increased from 11 seconds to 18 seconds. Base cooldown duration from 29 seconds to 38 seconds. And no longer breaks projectile tracking. Top Tree Gunslinger. Proximity Explosive Knife Melee. Increased cooldown from 96 seconds to 100 seconds. Fixed an issue where melee cooldown time was longer than melee energy. When melee energy was fully charged. Middle Tree Gunslinger Knife Trick Melee reduced cooldown from 96 seconds to 82 seconds. Actually, that's really nice. Bottom Tree Gunslinger Weighted Throwing Knife Melee increased cooldown from 96 seconds to 109 seconds. Practice Makes Perfect reduced duration in PvP game modes from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. Top Tree Arc Strider Combination Blow Melee reduced cooldown duration from 96 seconds to... Wait, I'm sorry, what? Combination Blow Melee reduced cooldown duration from 96 seconds to 15 seconds? Okay, that's somebody test that, please. Get back to me. Put it down in the comments. Middle Tree Arc Strider Tempest Strike Melee. Detonation height increased from 2.5 I'm assuming it's 2.5 meters to 3 meters because they have 2.5 seconds here. Increased tolerance for traveling over uneven ground. Increased cooldown from 96 seconds to 100 seconds. Bottom Tree, I mean, there's a few mistakes in the patch notes, and who could blame them? There's a lot here. So for Bottom Tree for bottom tree Arc Strider, top tree Night Stalker, middle tree Night Stalker, and bottom tree Night Stalker, all of their melee abilities cooldowns are they're all different. Sorry. So bottom tree Arc Strider has an increased cooldown from 96 to 100. Top tree, I said bottom tree Arc Strider, right? Bottom tree Arc Strider. Top tree Night Stalker. I'm sorry, there's a lot. Top tree Night Stalker reduced cooldown from 96 to 90. Middle tree Night Stalker reduced from 96 to 90. And bottom tree Night Stalker reduced from 96 to 75. For Revenant, the Grim Harvest aspect increased fragment slots from 2 to 3, because I'm assuming Diamond Lance. Shatter Dive increased damage versus frozen PvE combatants by 100%. Note, is much less lethal versus players due to stasis crystal change. We'll see. Withering Blade increased cooldown from 95 to 133 seconds. Warlocks. I can see the end. We're getting there. Warlocks. Uncharged melee. Reduced melee range from 5.5 meters to 4.5 meters, which now matches the Hunters and Titans melee range. Reduced suppression time after melee. Can now melee back-to-back at the same speed as a Hunter and Titan. Fine by me. Top tree Dawnblade, Celestial Fire melee, increased cooldown from 82 to 100. Assume these are all in seconds, by the way. Middle tree Dawnblade, Guiding Flame melee, increased cooldown from 82 to 90. Benevolent Dawn, reduced buff duration by 50% in PvP game modes. Well of Radiance, reduced the amount of super energy provided by Well of Radiance Orbs of Power. Well of Radiance Sword can now be slowed and frozen by Dusk-filled grenades and other slow volumes. And other slow volume, or whatever. Guardians cannot be frozen still. Bottom tree Dawnblade, Igniting Touch, increased melee cooldown from 82 to 90. Detonations from solar ability kills and burn kills now chain more consistently. Everlasting Flames, super energy gain now drops to minimum amount after 4 kills instead of 7 kills in PvP game modes. So they're trying to buff bottom tree Dawnblade. And Phoenix Dive, fixed an issue where movement abilities were suppressed for 2.5 seconds after Phoenix diving. Top tree Stormcaller. Arc Web melee, reduced grenade energy gain per chain by 50% in PvP game modes. Chain Lightning melee, increased cooldown from 82 to 90. Middle tree Stormcaller, Chaos Reach, reduced damage per tick versus player by 33%. Increased damage tick rate versus players by 33%. So the tick rate's increased, but the damage per tick is lowered. That should offset, but we'll see. We'll find out. Ball Lightning melee, increased max flight distance from 25 meters to 27.5 meters. Increased cooldown from 82 seconds to 113 seconds. Ionic Trace, increased tracking turn speed by 14%, which is really nice. Reduced ability energy gain by 50% in PvP game modes. Bottom tree Stormcaller, Rising Storm melee, increased cooldown duration from 82 to 90. Reduced ability energy gain versus players by 50%. Electrostatic Surge, reduced class ability recharge bonus by 50% in PvP game modes. Top tree Voidwalker, Entropic Pull melee, increased cooldown from 82 to 90. Middle tree Voidwalker, Atomic Breach melee, increased cooldown from 82 to 90. Handheld Supernova, increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%. Reduced damage versus players, now deals 150 damage instead. And increased projectile range from 12 meters to 14 meters. Increased push physics impulse strength. I do agree. One of my buddies said that if they're doing this type of stuff with Handheld Supernova, then the self damage that you get, like the double-edged sword that it is, if you do it too close to you and you hurt yourself, it should be taken away now. Dark Matter now scales energy gains by enemy type, reduced energy gain for player kills, now grants 15% melee energy, 10% grenade energy, and 10% class ability energy for killing a player. And Nova Warp increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%. Nova Warp's pretty good. It's pretty fun to play in PvE. Bottom tree Voidwalker. Devour melee. Reduced cooldown duration from 82 seconds to 75 seconds. Shade Binder. Wait. Oh yeah, they just okay. For Shade Binder. Penumbral Blast melee. Increased cooldown duration from 95 seconds to 113. Increased proximity detonation radius versus PvE combatants by 100%. That's actually really nice. Winter's Wrath super, reduced shatter pulse damage versus enemy supers. Must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to kill. And Bleak Watchers. While Bleak Watcher is equipped, all stasis grenade charge at Glacier Grenade rate. Grenades. This is the chart. This is the whole entire chart that is being put out. There's so much. There is so much. In general, damage, increased damage to PvE combatants. In general, increased cooldown based on power output. Switching grenades in the subclass screen now resets grenade energy to 0 for a complete breakdown of specific grenade changes. Okay, so every single, if I remember correctly, yeah, every single grenade has increased damage to PvE. But now, depending on what their power is based on their cooldown. So if they're super powerful grenades, they have a longer cooldown. I think I'd be okay with going through them because it's not that terrible. Okay, yeah, I'll go through them. Get to buckle up. I know we're 40 some odd minutes into this, but all right, so in order, I'm going to go the name of the grenade, the cooldown duration at tier 3, and then what the previous cooldown was, and then the functionality changes because it's how they have the chart. If you want to look on the video yourself, if you're watching this while you're driving or at work and you need time to look at it or whatever at your own time, feel free to pause, whatever. I'm going through it now. For Void Grenades, Scatter Grenade. New cooldown duration is 105, previous was 82, and increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Axion Bolt, new cooldown 91, old cooldown 82, increased damage versus PvE by 15%, increased bolt tracking search radium by 33%, increased bolt movement speed by 10%, and increased bolt travel distance by 15%. Vortex Grenades. Old cooldown was 105, new cooldown is 105, old cooldown is 82. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%, reduce initial detonation damage from 50 to 20. So now I really need to take damage over time. Void Wall Grenades. New cooldown is 105, old cooldown was 82. So everything used to be 82. So I'm just going to go over, if it's fine with you, I'm going to go over the new cooldowns. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Spike Grenades, new cooldown is 105. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Magnetic Grenade, new cooldown is 121. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 17%. Now sticks to all surfaces. Now always detonates twice. Previously only detonated twice when stuck to an enemy. Increased throw speed by 33% and increased tracking, strength, and cone length to account for faster speed. And Suppressor Grenade increased to 121, and it does increase damage to PvE combatants by 15%. Arc Grenades. Lightning Grenade. New cooldown is 121. Increased damage to PvE combatants by 23%. Increased minimum damage versus players from 50 to 60, increase max damage versus players from 150 to 160. Pulse Grenade, new cooldown is 105. Increase damage to PvE combatants by 15%. Flashbang Grenade. New cooldown is 91. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Increased blinding radius by 20%. And reduced max damage from 130 to 120. Arc Bolt Grenade. New cooldown time is 121. Increased damage to PvE combatants by 15% and increased damage per bolt from 90 to 105. Skip Grenade. Increased damage to PvE combatants by 15%. Has a 105 cooldown time now. Flux Grenades have a 182 cooldown time and has increased damage to PvE combatants by 15%, increased attached detonation damage from 150 to 250, removed projectile tracking, added small amount of aim assist, increased throw speed by 117%, and now sticks to all surfaces, and increased arming time from 0.9 seconds to 1.7 seconds. Flux Grenade is basically a plasma grenade from Halo, my understanding. Storm Grenade, new cooldown is 91 and increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Finally, we have the Solar Grenades. Fusion Grenade, new cooldown time is 73. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. Reduced damage versus players from 150 to 130. Now sticks to all surfaces, and reduced tracking strength by 25%. Fire Bolt Grenade, reduced cooldown from the previous is 64. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15. Reduced damage per bolt from 90 to 65. Solar Grenade, 105 cooldown time now. Increased damage in PvE by 15%. Reduced initial detonation damage from 50 to 20. So all of the grenades that sit there and deal damage over time now have reduced damage whenever they initially hit. Trip Mine Grenade, new cooldown is 91. Increased damage in PvE by 15%. Swarm Grenade, the exact same thing, 91 and increased PvE damage by 15. Incendiary Grenade, new cooldown is 121. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 25%. Increased detonation radius by 10%. Increased damage versus players. If explodes right under another player, deals 170 damage. Lingering burn damage can kill. If not under a player, max damage increases from 120 to 130. And Thermite Grenades have 105 second cooldown and have increased damage in PvE by 15%. As for Stasis, Cold Snap Grenade is now at 121 cooldown, increased damage versus PvE by 15, increased Seeker travel speed from 10 meters a second to 17 meters a second, so it's super quick. Glacier Grenade, increased cooldown time to 152, increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%, and grenade projectile now bounces off enemy barricades instead of detonating immediately, which is nice. And Dusk-Filled Grenade reduced all the way down to 64 cooldown time duration and increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%, increased slow stack tick rate by 10%, and no longer pulls enemies on detonation. So now you got to be very careful where you do it. We're at the end. We're at the end. Fixed an issue causing the Season 14 Iron Banner pursuit to persist in the quest long after Season 15 started. Hi, that was me. General contextual ornament selling. Players will be able to purchase exotic weapon and armor ornaments whenever they are viewing them. Contextual purchases can be completed from the item detail screen, collections, and transmog. Director dialogues, director tab linking. Players will be able to navigate to a targeted director tab from a relevant message, allowing them to effortlessly take action after reading a director dialogue. Oh, sorry. VFX performance and photosensitivity tweaks, screen explosions, reduced instance of bright flashes and frequent white animations against dark contrast, updated near fade on particles. VFX performance and photosensitivity tweaks again. Hive headshot and darkness blasts. Hive headshot VFX intensity reduced. Hive darkness blast detonation and projectile intensity reduced. More sensitivity tweaks. Taken projectiles and muzzle flashes. Arc rifles, taken slug rifle and necromancer VFX reduced intensity and normalized lights. Hollowed layer boss fight, adjusted intensity particles near fade for multiple VFX and boss fight. AoE intensity reduced. Lightning strike, particles and light intensity reduced. Impact particles near fade. Impact particle near fades updated. Cloud brightness animation frequency slowed down and decals reduced in intensity. More stuff for score and stuff. It's all visual effects stuff. Sorry, I'm running out of gas here. They did it for Scorn. They did it for the Hollowed Layer. They did it for arc abilities. With screen stuff, which is really nice. Okay, fix an issue where the Colossus Railgun rail cannon could deal more damage at higher frame rates. We reworked this bit so rail cannon projectiles will no longer deal flyby damage. They not only apply damage on direct hits, but will hit you a bit more often. Average damage output is about the same as you'd receive at 30 frames per second. Fixed various issues where some how-to toasts were set to a higher priority than some system messages. Fixed an issue where ultra combatants' health bars were not consistently respecting colorblind settings. Ultra combatant health bars would display inconsistent coloring in multiple colorblind modes, and localization Mexican, Spanish, Zer voice talent has been recast. Guys, we're at the end. All right, that's it. I'm done. I told you I was going to do the patch notes. That's it. It's been a lot. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys got it through, or got through there. A lot of stuff. But thank you guys. I do appreciate it. If you're still here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit like on this video and you know the whole entire deal. Because if you stuck through me, or if you stuck through the whole entire thing with me for this long, goddamn. But I will see you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to keep your heads up and be kind to each other. Bye now.